Hi, I'm Reverend Wendy Craig-Purcell here at the Unity Center in San Diego. Thank you so much for watching today. If you'd like to support the work that we do here, please consider making a contribution. Go to our website. It's easy to do. Thank you in advance for that contribution.
So today we are actually winding up a somewhat short series that I have called Our Spiritual Journey. But I would be remiss if I didn't include this one other topic on our spiritual journey, and it is the topic of our ego. Our ego. Perhaps you've heard the acronym that's pretty popular for ego, edging God out. Edging God out. That's certainly one way of looking at the ego. You know, we can't go very far in our spiritual journey before we start realizing, oh, wait a minute, I got some ego stuff going on here, and I've got to try to understand what it is and how to work with it. So 4 important things to know about the ego. Number 1, we all have one. We all have an ego. We all have a sense of ourselves. Mahatma Gandhi had an ego. Martin Luther King Jr. had an ego. Mother Teresa had an ego. Jesus Christ had an ego. We all have an ego. The challenge is, for many of us, the ego is asleep to its larger self, its divine self, its God self. And that's where the problem comes in. So we all have an ego, but for many, our egos have been shaped primarily by these things, by how we look physically, by what we own, by what we have, by what we do, by what we know, by what other people think of us. Some of you are nodding your head to that one. By our feeling either of superiority over others or inferiority to others, or shaped by a feeling of separation, that I am just me and you are just you and we are completely separate. Now what we know spiritually is, what we know is physically we look separate, right? But what we know spiritually is at the very core, at the very essence, just as Shana so beautifully sang, we are one. What we know at our very core, at our very essence, at our very core, our very essence, not only are we one, but we are made of the same divine sparkle, the same divine dust. The second thing that we need to understand about this thing that we all have, this sense of self that we all have, is how the unawakened ego presents itself. So here are some of the ways that the unawakened ego presents itself. It tends to be very judgy. Say that with me, very judgy. Say it like that, very judgy, right? There's a difference between being spiritually discerning. We need to be spiritually discerning. This is what I think Jesus was speaking about when he said, to not judge, but to judge righteously. It is to be spiritually discerning. What he was telling us not to do is to be judgy. Right? And you're not going to forget that part, right? Okay. Because we all have that. We all have a bit of that and maybe a lot of that within us. And that is the ego. And that judginess usually comes because we are feeling threatened, or we are feeling afraid, right? Or we are comparing ourselves to somebody else. We're comparing our insides to their outsides, or vice versa. And so the unawakened ego is a rather ugly aspect of our human nature. You see, our spiritual journey is about softening the edges of our human nature, so to speak, and dissolving this sense, so to speak, of the boundaries of the ego, awakening it, so that the ego begins to reflect much more fully the divine core of us.
Thanks for listening. The Unity Center, transforming lives and healing our world. Check us out Sundays at 9 and 11. Many people enjoy Reverend Wendy's talks and meditations and aren't able to attend the Unity Center in person. If you're part of our extended family from around the world and would like to help support the Unity Center, please go to our website or download our free app, which offers even more ways to connect with the Unity Center. Namaste.